You got him off of camera. You got him off camera.
I
Oh
know,
my
right?
God. That's my baby daddy,
What's up,
Troy.
lady? I know it's been a minute. Too long.
Look, do I need to snap a picture of this? Hold on. Hey, you ain't
do that
seen him in
screenshot.
forever. All right, here we go. Here we go. That's Jesse. All right, Troy, say something.
Say something. Something. What's up, folks? Yeah. See you, man.
You're
Good to see you.
good. I miss you.
Hey, Jesse, I had a incredible, monumental experience because of this woman. She invited me to DC for the 1 year anniversary of the African American Museum, and it rocked my world, bro. It was
What year was this?
what
This
year
is
was
before COVID. Yeah, this was before
wait,
COVID when it
you know
first.
what? I think this is 2016, 15, 16.
No, I think it was 18.
Was
So
it?
why did it rock your world? Was it the experience of the museum?
The totality of it. First, it was the first time I've been to DC. I know that sounds crazy. So
Holy
It's
shit.
the financier himself.
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
so knowing about that city in terms of what it was, a lot of folks who are from DC or went there to go to school, and their version of Chocolate City is not the same. So they were letting me know how it was before the gentrification, and I was trying to piece it together. But it was unique, even though that moment of time had passed. The time that this 1 year anniversary of the museum was taking place, which was, very an extravaganza in and of itself, because it allowed us to view the museum. Again, my first time in DC, and hence the first time at the museum. It allowed us to go to an event, a pre-event before the actual, I think, anniversary.
Yeah.
And it was an evening event where there's entertainment, there was celebrities, there were people in government. It was a big extravaganza, actually. But it was held at the ground floor of the museum, and they made the museum open to all of us. So it wasn't open to the
Great
public.
event.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
were
Sheila
able to
Jackson Lee
meander.
was there, and she passed away. Remember, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee?
Yes, she passed
Yeah,
away.
yeah, she did.
Yeah, because what I will say is that I've done mostly all of the DC museums, most of the Chicago museums.
Yeah.
And when we did the Black American History Museum, it really was, in my personal opinion, arguably one of the best of all of these museums that I had been to, because with the chronological order, starting in the basement, going up from the slavery. And I think probably for me, the most dramatic thing from that museum was that seeing the inventory list of the slave ships.
See, that's my man right there. That's why we birds of a feather, right?
Left the port with 800, arrived with 200 because 600 had died. And then the names of the ship, where they left from, and stuff like that. So I had gone a couple of times. Me and my lady had gone whenever we were in DC. And then I flew my mom up there for Mother's Day last year, met her in DC, then brought her back down to the house in Virginia. And then, obviously she was, really enthused about it, kind of seeing some of those different things that she had gone through as well, too. So just from the way it was done and the setup, because a lot of those other museums, the Science Museum, the American History Museum, there's no chronological order. There's no organization. It's just, you got a World War II ship over here. You got an astronaut over here. Right. It's not in any type of organization like that.
Yeah. More than a curated experience. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, very, 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 very nice. And we didn't finish it the first couple times we went, kind of studying everything on the first 3 floors. Then we were back up with my mom. Actually, we ended up going to the top 2 floors or whatever, seeing more current stuff, which is also still very interesting. I was kind of shocked. I thought I was just going to see more current generational stuff, but they had some stuff with a lot of the military soldiers and a lot of different stories. So yeah, very, very, just an amazing piece. So I'm sure that event was just wonderful.
Yeah,
they added a lot too. So we got to make it back.
Yeah, one of the reasons why it was really powerful for me, one being my first time, one being able to attend it without all the the rush of the crowd, because it was still, you know,
Yeah.
it was a lot of people going through that museum. So to be able to meander and take my time and kind of have my own moment, you know, we're deep thinkers, so we just don't brush through data and these displays. We kind of sit in it, and kind of all the things that we already know based on our own research, we overlay with what we're experiencing. So that was cool. Even Jesse Jackson was there that night, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Wow.
And
Which by the way is why we didn't make it through, right? A little crowded, and you can't
Right.
rush through it. So that's
exactly.
what I'm saying. So you know, so it was probably a really great experience for you. Yeah.
Really great. And you don't know what to expect. So it was a lot to take on, right? So what's interesting though, the timing of it, that we went the next day was also the annual event for the Kappas. And they had their event at the museum as well.
Yeah.
So that was another event that was going on. So some folks in my marketing group at the time knew the president of the DC chapter. So I got a chance to meet him, and he invited me to that event. So I got like this immersion into this Black, it ain't Chocolate City anymore, but I got a chance to experience what was, because you have all these Black people now in former Chocolate City that gave me a sense of what it was. So
which brings me to why I used to not really like DC that much. All them old uppity Negroes. Man, listen, we used to go, because let me say something. When I got my first introduction to that DC world like that, I was really young. And Troy knows my story. I started a business when I was like 19 years old, very young. He met me when we met each other when he first started trying to do property flips in Atlanta, and I was even young then. So I was going up there, just kind of really messing around, mostly probably hanging out with some girl or something, knowing me.
Yeah.
But I just, being in Atlanta and being around kind of business hustlers, that kind of suited me, and that vibe, that kind of more relaxed, casual business vibe,
right,
felt more comfortable. So when I started getting around these cats in DC that would have all of this kind of like ego, I'm like, man, my house is 6,000 square feet. I'm 25 years old, man. What you talking about?
Right.
Like, you going home, dog. Like I'm just here to kick it. Like, you can leave your ego, man. Like, my home is in Atlanta. We getting to it. So I couldn't get with that. But let me tell you something. I had that kind of negative animosity in me about DC for a long time. We even had a group of guys from DC that would come visit me in Miami. And every time they come, I'll be like, oh, Lord, like, here they come. But I'd take care of them, show them a good time. And up until when we got the house in Virginia and we started going back, I got a new appreciation for DC. Now, I feel like it's changed a lot. But I have a new, acceptance and appreciation for it. I don't get those vibes as much, maybe because I don't know, maybe I'm a little older or something. But it's got its going on now. They've got the good food scene, a little bit of a somewhat nightlife. It's not Chocolate City anymore, though.
Right. Yeah.
It's no longer Chocolate City. But
for me too, the local industry, if you will, was government. So I never been around such a heavy government-focused, Black, upwardly mobile type population, educating me on being a page and matriculating. I understood the whole government hustle, if you so to speak.
That's awesome.
That was interesting as well, but back to the museum, when I was looking at the manifestos, right, in terms of the inventory, like you cited, but what's really impactful for me, as Jennifer just said, as a finance guy, was the numbers, bro. The commerce. You know what I'm saying? And we're talking about millions and billions in the 1900s. And so I'm looking at it like, what is the compound interest of that? And that blew me away. Like, the whole thing blew me away. It was touching, it was deep, but I'm so thankful they created that quiet room, because I needed that quiet room after I started doing that math.
And then when you do the math, you do it from the aspects, you start to think that, so this was a business. So if you and I were Portuguese or white, we could have went and got a loan for the ship and everything. Hey, my man built the ship. We want to transport, but we need somebody to finance it. Like
Yep.
these you know, so you have a whole different segment of banking, transportation, logistics,
Mm,
building, construction,
yeah.
delivering, selling, full blown industry, transatlantic. I just got back from Portugal just a couple of months ago. Just the
Wow.
whole thing. It is what a sight to behold. Gives you a new respect for, you know, for being here now. That's for sure.
And you know, it's interesting, Jesse, you know, you're very consistent with your very impactful way of getting Black people just to think that it ain't what you think it is. You got to think bigger than the narrative that's been given to you. When you travel and you understand the dynamic of the diaspora of this thing called the transatlantic slave trade, people will probably be more active when it comes to these causes and getting involved. They're so disconnected for the breadth of the weight of what that meant and what it did for us. We're kind of desensitized to it, and those type of things. Like I said, I had to go to the quiet room because I just started connecting the dots, you know, on how systemic it was and why it's so hard to get out from under it, from the top.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about that, and I don't know what Dr. Harris thinks, but one thing I can say to kind of echo what you're saying, I'll give you a quick story from my mom. When I was little, they had made a Temptations movie series. I don't remember, like it was just like a whatever 3-part movie series they used to make, come on regular television. But I remembered one of the scenes where one of the characters, because they started the Temptations in high school,
Mhm.
and one of the members couldn't show up to practice all the time to sing because his parents wanted him to focus on school. So he was leaving school, running home to go do his homework in front of his mom so he could try to get his homework done so he could go and then practice with the other singing members.
Mhm.
And I remember because at the time, I always made good grades, but my parents never checked my report card because it was like a funny joke in the house. Like, dude, we already know you. We know you're bad, but we know you make A's too. Like, we know you're mischievous, but we don't check your stuff. So I remember asking her, like, man, like, why is he running home? Like, he's in high school. Like, you guys don't even check after me like that. And she said something I still remember, man. She said, we had more respect for education back then than you guys do now because we were just allowed to have education.
Right.
We're just coming into or out of segregation.
Right.
So our ability to just be able to go to school and learn. She's telling me I saw my mother not be able to go to school and learn, but also knew how to make all of our clothes. I
Right.
saw my father not be able to go to school and learn, but knew how to go work these machines at this factory. So
Right.
for us to be able to learn, we were proud of that.
Right.
And somewhere after her generation, whatever all the other socioeconomic issues we can debate about, our community, Black community, lost it not only in America, but in that transatlantic region.
Gotcha.
I don't, you know, what you call it, imperialism, capitalism, whatever we want to debate, they created it. But that generation was one of the last generations that had that impactful level of appreciation for education because they knew it was one of their ways to salvation.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Deep stuff. But that is not the subject of this Zoom. And it
Hey,
is and it
that
isn't.
flows together,
But
if you
it's
ask
not-
me.
For sure. But I did want.
So Jennifer, tell me where are you even located?
So currently I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay.
We travel back and forth to Atlanta as well because I'm licensed there. And
Okay,
then
you're licensed in Georgia. Okay.
Georgia and also North Carolina. And then I do some international also.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what's the drive to, how far is it from Atlanta?
About 5.5 to 6 hours.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So it's not that bad, but it's not that
Sometimes I
easy
stop
either.
in Charlotte because I do some work in Charlotte as well, and then I just go through Charlotte is about halfway point, of course, between
Oh, I
Atlanta.
see. Okay. All right. Because sometimes from my house in Virginia, I do fly out of Raleigh sometimes.
I'm
So I
always
get-
driving because that way
Yeah.
I'm always driving to Atlanta because by the time you deal with the airport, getting there early, getting on the
That's
flight,
true.
getting off, and the whole nine, you might as well just drive.
So I guess what I wanted to kind of pick your brain about and ask you about from your real estate perspective would be, because I'm licensed in Florida and North Carolina.
Okay.
And I was just texting, I always send Troy these long ass texts about real estate stuff. Just whenever something's in my mind, just so he can know where my mind is going. But what are you seeing in, Raleigh, North Carolina? It's kind of hard to say Atlanta and Raleigh because these are very two different markets. So I'll ask you just first about Raleigh and then North Carolina. Where are you seeing the money opportunities now and where you see them potentially going? And I'll give you an example of why I'm asking that is because, for example, I am not a big proponent of Florida investments right now because it's just too expensive. The labor is too expensive. The permitting process is too long. I can build a house in North Carolina or Virginia in a fraction of the time that you can even go through the permitting process in Florida.
Okay.
And in addition to that, I'm also seeing that with the increase of interest rates, that I was just texting Troy this week, I'm not really seeing any real opportunity in real estate, single family or multifamily, that is really cash flowing under a finance perspective. So I want to ask you, and what are you seeing where you see the money? And if you say, hey, I only see it in a transaction as a broker, you can say that too. I'm just curious of what you're seeing.
So, great question. And I get that question often. So what I'm seeing, what I've been doing is I have my investors that are no longer wanting to purchase, like, say, a $300,000 or $400,000 house, and then they're ended up only getting a small fraction for rent, right? By the time you net out what you can kind of get in rent. So what I have been doing for many years is connecting them, doing the joint venture partnership. So you got a couple of different investors. We went in, or you go in and buy land, and then you actually produce housing, which of course is what is needed. Like, prime example, one of the is like, as a developer, right? Do you do any development at all? Or you just mostly just
Yes, we're doing multifamily deals in Charlotte right now.
okay, multifamily. Okay.
Yeah, multifamily deals in Charlotte right now, and I am potentially going to start doing single family development here and around the Central Virginia area.
Okay.
Potentially. I'm still working out numbers and seeing what that looks like. I have a very close friend of mine, business associate, that builds luxury cabins in the Blue Ridge Mountains outside of Atlanta. He's currently building a 10,000 square foot house in Rivers Call in Atlanta. And once again, his cabins are $1 million cabins. He does really well with those because he has an inside connection on the land.
Right.
And one thing about those deals is that he is kind of forced to work with what he calls the good old boy white boys in that region to get through the permitting faster. If they saw it being done at his level at 3 and 4 cabins at a time with just a regular black man, he thinks that there would be some serious upholding of permitting and job holds up.
Yeah.
But on his luxury house in Atlanta, and I'm saying all this to say that it's making me not have any interest in the larger projects. The multifamily that we have in Charlotte right now doesn't cash flow from a finance perspective with the rental numbers. So we're trying to figure out how we're going to finalize that deal. We have another one coming online.
Mm-hmm.
His luxury home is way past budget. It's just a big project. Like I said, almost 10,000 square foot pool house. A lot of needed luxury items for the price point that he's going to be selling at $3.5 million. So I am kind of, what I'm seeing around here in Central Virginia is this 1,800, 2,000 square foot, $400,000 deal. And I mean, these things, is a guy right down the road from my community that's bought 20 acres at a foreclosure or a tax foreclosure. I can't remember, but these are all these little $450,000 to even $480,000 1,800 square foot, 2,000 square foot places that, and as soon as they go up, they're sold. But
Right.
that's kind of all I'm seeing. And yeah, you can do, like I said, you can do the luxury stuff like he's doing, but the risk, it seems to be extreme in some of these areas. I'm not sure if you're seeing similar or not.
I wouldn't go into the top luxury because of the fact that people are no longer buying these huge 10,000, those may be some unicorns. But what I'm seeing is that we're taking land, and I get a lot of different churches that come to me saying they have land that they're not
Wow.
even from. So, and this was even talked about at I don't know if you've ever been to International Leadership Summit with Bishop Jakes. So he does.
I've never heard of that. What city does he have that in?
It was in Orlando. No, it was in Dallas this year. Last year it was in Orlando.
I'm not familiar with that one. Okay.
I think he's going to be back in. I think he's going to be back in Orlando next year. So at that particular, but I was already doing this, right? But at that particular event, they were talking about the next play is going to be pretty much to get with churches that have land, and the churches can put the land up for collateral, right? And then you build single family homes to sell, or you can actually, leave a portion of them to rent. But what I'm doing in Durham is that I had a church that had some land. They had maybe like 22, 23 years. They never did anything with it. It was already subdivided into like 8 properties. And this is it right there in Durham. And so we're putting the utilities. Utilities was kind of on a little bit of it, but we're in the process of putting utilities on. And then we're going to be building about maybe around 2,000 square foot house. But the average price in Durham right now is about 550,000. So we're going to be building it for about, say, 350, maybe 375, but selling it between 550 to 600.
Now, when you say 350, 375, are you including that cost of that, kind of like the suggested cost of that land as well? Or are you talking about your full construction cost?
Oh, that's the construction cost. So they were able to.
You're at 2,000 square foot. Let me just see.
That's the sweet spot number. And yes, you're right about the interest rates. When interest rates kind of went up.
So you're at a little bit less than $200 a square foot. Are you including the utilities that you put into the ground for that?
No, so the utilities, we're actually just got some numbers back from some of our engineers. Now they were able to pick up some of that land for about 500,000. And that was without, it's going to be 8 lots. Now we could have easily went through the subdividing of it to make it, because these are like 0.19 lot sizes. So we could have put it in half, like 0.10, but we didn't want to, because it's on this particular road that is on. We didn't want like 12, 16 houses like packed like that. To me, I don't think it was going to sell as well as it would sell by either doing an ADU in the back. You know what I mean?
That's interesting, because we're seeing the opposite up here. These people are buying, they're just buying the house. I don't see consumers even really that concerned with the proximity anymore in this region.
Well, depends, right? So some of the ones that are on the smaller lots, it's almost just like you're having to build a smaller square foot. So in order for us to build that spot to get out of the 400 numbers, right? The 400,000 numbers, in order for us to build something that was you also going to be competing with these other big production builders, the D.R. Hortons, I don't know if you guys have like KB Home, Meritage Homes, all of these production builders that are looking to build, 100 houses in a particular subdivision.
Yeah. And so your sales price on this 2,000 square foot, roughly 375 on the construction costs. Are you going to try to be at around 500,000?
No, we're going to be on the market for between 550 to 600,000.
Oh, wow.
Because that's what
that's really good.
What they're selling for already.
Okay. Oh, that's really good. And so then you're doing really well on your numbers then. But that's price. So we're in agreement then pretty much that the next probably 4 years to 10 years is creating your own inventory.
Creating your own inventory. Because that's what was also happening in downtown Raleigh. I actually bought some land. It was maybe like 0.10. So downtown Raleigh, they were forcing a lot of the tear downs because if it, didn't, that's a part of that whole gentrification, right? So a lot of the people that would look like us that own these older homes, they either didn't fix it up or they didn't keep it up to code. So the city of Raleigh or even Durham would cause them to say, you're going to have to do something with it or we're going to start fining you. And some cases, the city, if it was so much of an eyesore, then they would just tear it down and send people to build, right?
Mhm.
And then,
Yeah, I've seen them do that a lot.
yeah,
Even accidentally, they've done it a bunch in Atlanta where they've accidentally torn down the wrong houses too. I've seen that happen like a few times recently. That's a new thing. Most of the time in inner city ordinances where those individuals are more aggressive on that type of stuff. That's interesting to hear that happening in Raleigh, though. That city's nowhere near the same size as like.
it's happening in a lot of places, even like around from North Carolina Central, because that's where my mom, she ended up graduating from there. She was in her 50s, right, when she graduated. So North Carolina Central, like that little like mile proximity, a lot of those houses that was really, really, really old. Like my aunt used to live in one of those houses on Austin Street. And so she never fixed it up, never did any of those things. So you had all of these other investors or people coming in saying, hey, we want to be closer to downtown. So they would either just tear the house down, put up a new house, and it's got a $600,000, $700,000 value on it.
In that situation with your aunt, did she lose it? Did she give it up?
No,
Whatever happened to her property?
So she ended up passing away, but she didn't have a will at the time. So I convinced them to go ahead and get her to get a will, and she left it to my uncle. My uncle had was going to gut it out to resell it because they weren't planning to ever live in it. But I ended up convincing them to sell it to another investor and let them do all the work, and they profited about 250,000 without doing anything to it.
Oh, that's good.
I knew it wasn't going to go through that process.
So they ended up profiting like 250,000 just from selling the tear down, basically, from what it
No,
was.
it wasn't even torn down. It was just gutted out.
Gut it out. Yeah, I mean, going kind of back to circle the conversation, that is pretty much the story of us with Black Americans. We've had the opportunities in a lot of these city centers. All the way, I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. I can tell you about our city center where we had a lot of those properties in the old home sports story, what looked like brownstones in New York, but they call them kind of old Victorian style homes. Mm-hmm. Indianapolis, where you are in Raleigh, obviously all throughout the downtown of Atlanta, all those different downtown corridors of Atlanta but some of those families were able to retain some of those properties. So they've done better than most other predominantly Black downtown areas where now this land is just so valuable now. And at the same time, what's crazy now is that it's almost gotten to a point where it's too valuable for it to make any sense unless you're a big investor.
Right. Which is why you got to get back to creating the inventory.
I agree. Okay. Yeah, so I would say to look and see what else that you have and potentially be able to do it in and throughout Raleigh, because I think that would probably be the best opportunity. Are you seeing stuff? My interest right now is kind of more on the outskirts of all these cities, tertiary sections, secondary markets, where the people are running to with lower property taxes, lower homeowner insurance, but are still retaining the values. Because now what I'm seeing here in Central Virginia, we have these types of markets and they're smaller, more rural, but they're holding or requesting the higher numbers on the sale price. But the land is a little bit cheaper. The county taxes are a lot cheaper. The inspection and permitting process is a lot more simpler. And I've kind of seen that throughout the country in smaller markets. The closer you get to the inner city, the more difficult the permitting process gets, with the exception of my buddy building those cabin houses. But yeah, I would love to see something like that you have that maybe put together to put as an option for investors that I could bring to the table as well too. Because that's
Okay.
kind of all they're really looking for right now. And your numbers at that church property are fantastic.
So, prime example, I am doing my due diligence on, some land that is for sale. It's actually been an approved subdivision that's behind, remember the land for the church I was telling you about?
Yeah, you
That
said that was roughly, no, they
is-
had it for 23 years.
Yeah, but they sold it to my other investors. So it's three couples that came together to do a JV partnership. And so they're the ones that's gonna be doing those, right? So right behind that land that they're building those 8 houses, there's an approved subdivision. It was a agent and a builder that were in partnership to build some houses. The builder ended up going to build like these $1 million plus houses. And so the agent's kind of been stuck with it. So it's gonna end up being 27, and I can actually, hold on, let me pull this up and I'm gonna show it to you. It's gonna be 27 houses. Some of them are duplexes, so it may hold some. So right now I am doing my due diligence on that part. Now they are asking $995 for the land, but I already told the guy we ain't going in with that because it still has to be subdivided. I've already met with the town of the Durham Planning Committee, and I'm gonna show you area view. But it's gonna end up being 16 single family homes and 8 1, 2, 3, 4, like 6 duplexes. So hold on one
I
second.
actually have another question for you after you send that too, by the way,
Okay,
in relation to the church.
yeah, go
The
ahead.
city centers comparison, because, from a city boy perspective, these regions all seem kind of rural, but I know that they're not. These are growing city centers. But how does Durham and Raleigh compare to, not where you are, because you said you're on the outskirts, Jesse, but the city centers of Virginia? Because these are the new kind of development areas that people are actually moving to and away from these bigger cities.
So for Virginia, there's no comparison. I mean, Raleigh, I can't speak to Durham. I haven't ventured that much in Durham. I do know a guy vaguely that was flipping there a few years ago. I can't speak to Durham, but like Raleigh, for sure is like a small city, like, kind of like I would maybe say a smaller style of an Indianapolis, maybe. There's no protein, I don't think there.
What's the population numbers?
Oh, I don't. Jennifer would have to answer that. I would guess probably around 1 million or 2. That would be my guess because I was shocked. Which city was that we were talking about? I was just talking to some people from Buffalo, New York, and I just found out that they don't even have 1 million people in Buffalo, New York.
Really?
Just was shocking. Yeah.
Surprising.
So, because everybody knows about that city from the football team, there's such a known city from the football team. I assumed it was a bigger city, but it's not. But so we don't have city centers in the same level as a Raleigh. Raleigh is kind of like a thriving. I don't want to be disrespectful. I don't know if it would be like a thriving up and coming Charlotte or not. I don't know if somebody would call it that because it is a lot smaller.
Raleigh is the capital of North Carolina.
So see, look, Raleigh's the capital. So, but obviously, but the big thing about Virginia, when you get to close to DC, the dynamics get all back out of whack again.
And the prices. Yeah.
And the prices, like, so once you get over to the Virginia side and you start getting within an hour to an hour and a half of DC,
like Alexandria,
it's basically a DC suburb market. It's still at that point.
Are you talking about like Alexandria, Virginia?
I'm talking about Alexandria, and within an hour radius inside of Virginia, an hour. Back into Virginia for Alexandria, those people are still commuting because there's businesses that do DC business in Alexandria. So you'll have somebody that's like Danielle's uncle has a big moving company. He is 45 minutes with good traffic from like where downtown DC basically. And that's with good traffic. But like if it's regular DC traffic, he's 55 plus minutes away, and they consider that DC living. So I mean, these people are all in they're in Manassas,
Wow.
Yep.
I think it's Brankland or something like that. I'm not, but so that's not Central Virginia. This is a different world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, as you come out of Central Virginia and you go south, now you're talking about Richmond. Richmond will be a good example of Raleigh. Capital of the state, no protein, but still a lot of industry, still decent pricing, still nice suburbs and nice prices in suburbs.
Yeah, we have a lot of jobs. As a matter of fact, I'll send you guys the information on the jobs that have been produced here. Of course, you know, you got your Apple, your Googles and all of those people, but the number of jobs that's come into our area. And then there's a there's a Japanese electronic electronic company, car company that's actually been coming to the area. So we have the jobs have definitely been helping. And most people, like you said, Jesse, they're willing to and having to drive 45, sometimes 50 minutes out.
Well, and then here's the other thing now that we have to think about as business real estate people. We have a Tesla at our house. And this idea that the commute is really just based on your time. But if you're doing meetings or you can do a YouTube video or education video on your way into work, this drive is really just your time. It's no longer a consideration necessarily about gas.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, she had my significant other, my fiance has a commute into the hospital that she works in. I think it's maybe 30 minutes each way or whatever, but she just jumps in her Tesla, turns on her music, gets home and plugs that car in. So it's not the same. It's not going to be the same even financially to have to worry about that commute. If that means my homeowner's insurance is lower, my property taxes are lower, and I got this 2,000 square foot house for $550 instead of $650.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even me personally, you can keep the house in town. Like, for example, I'll say Atlanta, Fulton County. I would never live in Fulton County again. You're out of your mind.
Yeah.
I can live down there. Like, and also too, I'm not buying no property in downtown Miami again. You're out of your mind. I'll rent to the day I die in downtown Miami.
Buckhead has become the point, you know how it is in Buckhead, where it don't matter if you're living in Buckhead, they taking the problems to Buckhead too. So it's like you pay all that money, which is why you see a lot of them on the housewives and stuff like that. They don't live right there. They be all on the outskirts.
Yeah, I mean, because the crime part is one element of it. The traffic part is another huge element of it, which Charlotte is starting to experience now heavy. And I'm doing business in Charlotte. I go there, my business partner is there. So I drive there when I'm here at the house in Virginia. And like, it's turning into like a little Atlanta, like really heavy traffic.
Little Atlanta. That's
right. I mean, so I just think that you're on the same wavelength. It's great we had the phone call, but just the stuff that you're finding here. So my question about the properties with the church was, how is it changing with the identity with the church, the nonprofit, non-taxable? I don't even know how it works with churches and the land. But when does that start to change when you start to put a house on it that you're actually selling? Is the church having to deed it over some kind of way in that process?
Well, it depends. So let me tell you about this, and then we can talk about the church. So this is this part right here you see. I don't know if you can see my screen.
I can see it, yeah.
So this part is the one I was telling you, the church had some land right here. It was like 8 lots that were already subdivided that they owned for like 23 plus years.
Okay.
They didn't get anything on it. That's the one that I was telling you where we're going to be building. We could have subdivided it into, because it's 8.19 and there's 2.20. So like a total of 1.53 going this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
We could have subdivided into smaller lots, but that's the reason why I said we didn't want to put, 12, 15 houses right here.
Yeah.
And then trying to go back to subdivide it into something even smaller to only sell it for a little bit less. You get what I mean? That didn't make any sense on our side. So that's why it's going to be 8 houses here. Now, back here is the land that was presented to me that I told you that they're trying to do. The other part is an approved subdivision and I'm gonna show you that plan. So you see this plot like this?
Yeah.
These are the 8 lots here. And
Right.
then right here, it hasn't been subdivided yet, but this is called Arlene Point. But let me see if I can find the I didn't like those plans that he had. So this is kind of like if it was to be subdivided, this side right here is where the duplexes were presented. And then this right here would be the regular single family houses. Let me see if I can find a better picture for you. Hold on one second. This is the one I was telling you that that builder had, the builder and the guy had kind of pulled out. But this is already approved subdivision. So we don't have utilities yet. We don't have, which is already told the guy, we're not gonna be going in at 995.
Do you, and the 995 that they're asking, is that the 8.9 acres?
That's for the, I think it's 5.8 acres.
5.8 acres. Is
Yeah.
that on city or septic?
You have to put the utilities, so it's gonna be on city sewer and city water.
Okay,
So
that's
you can
interesting.
probably see it a little bit better right here.
Okay,
This right here is Old Oxford. See, now this guy that came to me, he doesn't know that I am in this representation of the Old Oxford.
Mhm.
Whenever I had
Yeah.
my, because I'm with Remax, right? Whenever I had my sign up, nobody ever called me. And he's had it under contract a couple of times, but people were, for whatever reason, they didn't form a planning committee with the town of Durham or the city of Durham. So last week I was on with the city of Durham to say, hey, according to what this engineer is saying, do you have to do this part of the road? What I'm looking at now is checking with DOT to see, because the engineer put in that you have to have a left turn. So I'm checking to see if that's really the case, because right now we don't know. This is owned by, it says Arlene Street, but this land right here, by the time you subdivide it, it would be nice to do a road right here, but I don't know why the engineer put in that you have to have a left turn, because this is just trees. So right now I'm checking with the town of Durham, the city of Durham, to see, and with DOT, if we divide this out and don't do the left turn, can more of this land right here be with this property, which is this other end of Old Oxford, and then this is an old house right here. So that's what I'm trying to find out. And then, of course, doing due diligence on numbers of what you can actually build, because yes, you're going to have a road. This right here is where you're turning. This right here is the ending. And then you have to, of course, do the road that's going to connect on both sides. Now, in my opinion, it would look better if there is a road right here. Because if you add in 27 houses, it will be easier for people to just come in on this side versus coming in on what you saw these pictures here. I'm gonna show you. See, that's this side.
yeah,
And it's not that it wouldn't sell. I just think it personally, it would be better to truly have that subdivision look. See, all of these would be new houses, see? And it would be better to come in over here and then you just have the houses.
Yep.
yeah, 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 that looks great. I mean, that's another
That's
potentially
what
great project.
this deal. And I think, and so the same builder that I've been working with, and it's a black guy that's been building for about 30 years, Synergy. He actually, we're working on, because we already got to do utilities for the front end. Hold on, because we already have to do utilities for here, it will be easier and cheaper to work with them to do the utilities for the rest of it.
Okay,
That's great.
yeah, that's a big project, by the way. That's a huge, project. More than 10 houses I consider to be a big project. That's a real development. So that's gonna take a lot of review. I just don't know how they do it in North Carolina with what you're saying, like when you got to go try to figure out what you can build back in that kind of triangle section back in the bottom right.
Well, this
On
right
how they regulate what's available based on the utilities. And here in Virginia, a lot of it is based on septic. So the
Okay.
land has to perk a certain way for that septic tank for what can be built on it. Like
Yeah.
right now, there's a lot in one of our neighborhoods. It's like 6 acres, but it's not, you cannot subdivide it. It's for a single family only, but it's available for horses as well. But there's a big question on how many bedrooms that property is going to be able to perk for with the septic system.
Okay, now this is gonna be now this is some of the drawings that they had gotten approved for the duplex side. Which is the reason why we were thinking that we would just hold the duplexes for rental income and then just sell the rest of them. So like this picture right here is where the duplexes would go. And then these right here would be the single family houses that would be built to sell.
Yeah, I think it's going to be whatever you guys want to do is going to be fine in my personal and professional opinion, because if the interest rates continue to come down and if they really start to come down more, it's just going to create the buying frenzy again from this backlog of people who are still been wanting to buy that just have been refusing to purchase at an above 6% interest rate. So I think that once you get down into the 5s, specifically, especially lower 5s, and if you get anywhere near the 4s, for sure, you're going to have another backlog again. I am shocked, though, at how many buyers still are willing to go out here with these developers like D.R. Horton and stuff that are having these insane issues with construction quality all across the United States of America. But I guess it's just bad agents or people not informing these clients. I'm just shocked. I guess they're just so big and so many people, but wow, it's just amazing that they're still able to sell this many homes and also to legally be in business.
Exactly.
Another benefit of the good old boy network.
Right.
I mean, I saw a video. These cats, D.R. Horton was building houses. I can't remember. Maybe it was Nevada or Arizona, but they had developed this new siding instead of the wood paneling. It's almost like synthetic wood, which is equivalent almost to cardboard.
Yeah.
So you could go punch your finger through it. And it was licensed and approved by the permitting office of that city. These people basically have a house built around what essentially is cardboard structures.
Wow.
$700,000.
But that's what they're doing. They're adding in, of course you have to go through their mortgage companies, but they're adding in. And what I've been doing on
the incentives. So
yeah, the incentives of the buy down. So you can work that into the numbers and work it into the price of the house is all they really are doing.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that project looks amazing. That's really a big project. My investors would be looking more towards the individual pot shops, the nice lot, build on, do it, get 2 more, build those 2, do it, work out, get 2 or 3 more at a time and do it. That's a huge project that you're working on. There's not that much money though. I mean, $900,000 for the deal. I mean, we were doing deals in Miami in Pinecrest, the lots, the 1 acre lots in Pinecrest at the time, they're more now, but they were $900,000 to $1 million just for 1 acre lot.
So around the corner from that, there was about 3 acres, a little under 3 acres, a little under 4 acres that we're actually going to be subdividing into about 5 properties, and they
that'd be awesome.
About 300,000. So we just got to go through that part.
And before we finish, can you answer the question about the church and the property and the transition?
So it's going to depend on how much land the church has, where it's located, because each individual county or each individual state, if the church is going to, if they're going to sell it, or if they're going to just deed it over, or if they're going to go after some of the government grants, some of the government grants that now they want to work with the Biden administration. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know anything about that, where they were looking at working with the churches to give them some of the government grants to build housing.
I hadn't seen the government grants to build housing. I had seen government grants with churches, but what are the restrictions are they stating for that? Are they talking about to build low-income housing, homeless shelter housing, or are they not giving them restrictions?
Shelter, mostly to get more housing in place for people to actually be able to own. So it depends on what the vision of the church has. If they're going to do it as a rent to own, or if they're going to do it as a build to sell.
If
So
the church is gonna do it as a rent to own, so they're gonna kind of allow these churches to do business on their land, so to speak, in some form or fashion.
yeah, because some churches are selling the land, and then some churches want to still have a stake in those particular deals. Prime example, do you know the deal that Pastor Jamal Bryant is doing on his land in Atlanta?
Is that in Lithonia?
I think it's in Lithonia. Hold on.
Yeah,
let me
I'm
look.
not familiar with, I'm not familiar with any deals with churches. This is news to me with the church deals. It's a great idea, but I was completely unaware of these deals with the churches, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, let me show you.
It's a
The-
pretty big deal, Jesse. I actually was in a program at USC with Cecil Murray, who ran First AME Church, pretty iconic historic church in Los Angeles. He retired and he has a whole program at USC teaching not only civic engagement, but also how these churches are now doing basically for-profit development through their church organization structures. Yep.
Absolutely. Yep. And I'm going to try and pull up the link to their project that they ended up doing, that they got some grants for, that they're going to be building some housing. Let me see if I can find it for you.
I'm looking it up as well too. I see it here, pops right up on the, he's got a house tour.
He did a kind of like a
Oh,
groundbreaking.
he's the one that took over for New Baptist,
Yeah, he took over
or sorry, New Birth.
That's
He
in
took over-
Lithonia. That's in Lithonia. Evansville.
Yeah.
You know, Jesse, when I first came to Atlanta, that's where I touched down.
That doesn't surprise me. They had a lot of property out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So
Yeah.
he's a prime example of them taking some of the land. Where
A
is
lot
it?
of land too around that church.
Okay, that
Got a
was,
lot of land, brother.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he worked with because like I said, each state is going to be different depending on what they are, what they can kind of qualify for. Where is it? Where is it?
Yeah, and then not Jamal Bryant, but there's another black builder in Atlanta that's on the second phase of his tiny home community. And
Are you
he's
talking
doing,
about Booker T?
yeah, those guys are doing those houses for like 240,000. I think that those are great deals too.
Yeah, I was just with him at Bishop's Good Soil Movement.
Yeah, I think those are great deals. So I guess,
Now, one thing I do know is that another area that's booming of here is in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. That's kind of a little bit on the outskirts. So the D.R. Hortons and a lot of these other builders have been starting to build in that Rocky Mount area. I do know one of my contractor friends is building like 7 houses. They're maybe about 1,200 or so square feet. And he's building them for about 160 a square foot. And they're selling them for about 275.
that's 1,200 square feet.
Hundreds as well. Yeah, for 1,200 square feet.
Yeah, I think that and it seems like that's another thing too, that the buyers are not as square footage envy as what our generation, well, I know my generation for sure, was all about the square footage, but these new buyers are just, as long as it fits their lifestyle, and I guess digitally, you don't need the same footprint, right? Like the flat screen is on the television, your workstation is a laptop. But
So
1,200 square foot, that's so interesting.
Yeah, the sweet spot is about 1,800 square feet. I would say to maybe about 2,000, maybe 2,200 square feet. That's a good sweet spot to stay within.
I'm looking at Rocky Mount, and this is up here heading kind of northeast from you guys in Raleigh.
Right. Rocky Mount is about 40 minutes into Raleigh.
Into Raleigh.
Yeah.
And that's booming with these massive subdivisions, the 100, 200 home developments.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And then another area that is Wendell, Nightdale. You have some people that's kind of maybe looking at Greensboro, but Greensboro, in my opinion, most people are going to Durham before they kind of went to Greensboro. So it just really depends on, you know, number one, the job and how far they are going to be from there. But I'm trying to find, oh man, let me try and, you know what? It may be on their church. Let me go on their church site on New Birth. I was looking on his. Because this right here is what you're going to start to see a whole lot.
With the churches, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
I sat in on a whole entire segment with some people that was from the Biden administration, and also just showing about how a lot of these churches are just sitting on this land and they're not been maximizing it or doing anything with it.
That's amazing.
So there's money that is set aside that the church can actually build. And also because they will be going about helping with the housing. You see what I mean? And I'll try and find that.
Affordable housing aspect.
Yeah,
affordable
housing.
Make it affordable, which is an easier process because they don't have the land acquisition cost. It's just the land development cost.
Exactly. Yep. That's right.
Yeah.
And it's also a way that, like what I did in this case, the church needed the money, so they just wanted to go ahead and sell. But just like in this case, you're able to have them have full control, or of course, you're going to get attorneys involved when you're working with the land development side, if the church is planning to stay in it, which is the reason why they will put that up for like equity. And it's another way for after each sale of each house, the church can actually get profit or put it into a, you know, another particular account.
Kind of like almost like a transfer the profit into the next equity rollout for the next construction of the next home or the next space, so to speak.
Yep.
Yeah, similar. If you were to have the land yourself and you wanted to build 3 homes, you could leverage the equity from the first one that you built.
Exactly. And then wow, the land is used as, like you say, equity and collateral. So that way it helps when you're trying to do a construction loan as well.
So I would say what I would be interested in talking to you about and working with you on is 2 things. One would be, first would be the idea to bring a new home buyer to the table that wants to build custom, so that we don't have to invest in all of this and create this project. If we have the buyer that wants to do the property because they keep getting outbid or they're not finding what they want on the market, we can bring them to the market, find them the lot, sell them the lot, and build them the house. Instead of building spec.
Would be the bank in that case? Is that what you're saying?
No, we're not going to be anything except we're just going to broker the transaction and be the developer.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're working on right now. Part of my background is lead generation. We're working on generating these leads right now. We're going to see how well we're going to be able to do it. So we have a builder in Florida. We have a builder here in Central Virginia. We have a builder in Charlotte. So maybe in your area too, but we're going to look at generating these buyers because it all came from the last market cycle, from the for the interest rates being lower and the inventory being compacted. So these buyers, you had it in Raleigh. Your city was on the news. A showing was in Raleigh, and they had 200 people show up for the showing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. And then 20 offers and stuff like that. So it's not going to be enough when these rates go back down. There's going to be a segment of buyers out here that will be okay with having something built. And if you can walk them through the process of the financing, if they have the proper qualifications, they can actually finance it. They can purchase the land, they can finance that. They can finance the construction as well too, but you just take them through the process instead of building and then building the home with their profit margin built inside of it.
Yeah, so that's been the biggest challenge on the construction side, is that people can't necessarily qualify or don't want to necessarily qualify for the higher interest rates on doing a construction loan.
Yes, and that's why we're putting together now to try to start generating those leads now, because we foresee the interest rates coming down. So as they come down, when that number starts to tick back up, we're hoping that maybe by spring, summer next year, we're right in alignment with the movement of these numbers coming down and then getting these buyers back into that wheel.
So I know what I've been told is that the rates may come down a little bit again in September. And then, of course, after the election, they usually are coming down as well. Is that what you're hearing as well?
That's what I'm hearing, but you know, from a political standpoint, it's so all over the place. I personally feel like that the Fed is, I don't know what game they're playing, but they play hardball when the Democrats are in office, and then they get scared when the Republicans are in office because the Republicans are so psychotic. So the reason that they kept the rates low before, they needed to increase the rates when Trump was in office, but he kept threatening to fire the chairman of the Fed when he was even mentioned, because what they do is they'll put out a rumor, right? So that way the news picks it up and says, oh, the rates might go up, just to kind of prep everybody psychologically and prep the markets, right? We know what game they're playing.
Yeah.
But when they did that, when Trump was in office, because he knew he was trying to do re-election, he immediately said, can I fire the chairman of the Fed? And then some people were saying, no, you can't. He was like, well, why not? I'm the chairman of the Fed. I'm the chief executive officer. Why can't I fire him? Let's find out. And all of a sudden, magically, the rates didn't go up. The moment he loses the election, oh, we got to put the rate up. We got to put the rate up. So I don't know how they're going to play with the Democratic administration, but based on the way that everything is going with the inflation and the jobs report, everything seems to be kind of stabilizing out. You would think they would have to lower it again. But here's another conundrum. I don't know what people are talking about. If they get lowered from a real estate perspective, this does not help home ownership, because it's going to be the same problem, in my personal opinion.
We're never going to go back to those rates, but
the rates go down and the price go back up because the inventory is not there. So I don't know what everybody's talking about with saying that, like, the rates go down and get people back in houses. Yeah, the rates go down, and the price that just started to come down is probably going to go back up again. So I'm not. So you know, but you would think that if you and I on this call, Dr. Harris, know this.
You can call me Jennifer, but thank you.
The chairman of the Fed.
You said what again?
I said if we know this, the chairman of the Fed should know this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I assume they're going to go down. That's what I think is going to happen, just from political stuff and where everything seems to be stabilizing. But regardless, I feel like I need to be in that position with these leads, with these buyers, because even if I'm only getting 4 to 10 a year, that's a fantastic potential buyer at anywhere from $500,000 plus. That's creating that own inventory, and I don't have to build that spec house.
Correct. Yeah, because we already got them here. That can be building it.
Yeah, and there's lots.
The other thing I do is I help a lot of my investors are turning into buying businesses, because I have an acquisitions department that we help people want to buy or sell their businesses.
Which is the other business that we just started, by the way.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I'm a business broker as well, too. We're working on deals right now, so we're trying to join the transaction of buying businesses. I've got a car rental business listing in Houston, Texas. I've got a cleaning company listed in Texas. I've got a marijuana business listing in Oklahoma, and we just signed up something else today. My business partner did, but I don't even know what the business is. I got to go back and look at that after this call. So yeah, we're doing the same thing in that front too. So we'll be able to talk. You got buyers, sellers.
You're in Virginia. So one of my friends is a GC in Orlando. He's been doing it like 20, maybe about 22, 23 years, maybe 25 years. But he does a lot of contracts with Disney and people like that. So if we need a contractor or a builder, he does commercial as well as the residential. He's done over 200 million, the black guy.
Wow. And he's in what city?
Orlando. And
he still is building in Orlando.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Big competition there. Same thing as you were saying about Rocky Mount. The big boys are in and around Orlando. The big boys are there. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's great, very productive. I think you have some amazing things going on, and I would love to kind of expand into that market, you know, because when I'm here, I may stop with Miami next year. I may not keep my apartment there next year. I may see how it goes for a year without going back and forth down there. I've been doing it for 4 years now. And I don't know, Troy used to be a road warrior too, but like now.
Where are you at right now, Troy? Where are you at?
He's
I
in
call him
St.
Baby
Louis or
Daddy. His
California.
nickname is
You're in
Baby
St. Louis?
Daddy for me. Where
I'm
you at, Baby Daddy?
I'm actually in Missouri,
Oh, you still in Missouri? Okay.
and I've been looking at projects in and around Missouri as well. It's kind
Same
of
thing.
stuff that we talked about, Jesse, years ago. I'm now seeing develop in real time. You know what I
And I
mean?
have some connects in Ohio too. So in Cleveland.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what I was gonna say is the road warrior thing, the flying, it's not as easy as what it used to be. And kind of like you mentioned it earlier, Jennifer, just like driving it easier, like the flight delay.
Yeah.
Because I'm jumping on planes every other week, sometimes going back and forth to Miami, and it's like every other trip, something's delayed.
Right.
I've been getting flights for low prices out of like Raleigh or Richmond sometimes if I get a cheap flight and don't want to fly at a LYH. The Uber ride from Fort Lauderdale Airport to my apartment in downtown Miami would be more money than the flight.
Wow,
Yep.
that's
Right? So it's turned into this whole other thing than just like, yeah, I'm gonna just jump on a plane and be down in
right.
It doesn't work that way no more. It's like the extra time, all the logistics to get from point A to point B. It's not as simple as what it used to be, and it's not enjoyable at all. I'll tell you that much.
And I'm gonna
Exactly.
tell you, I'm not seeing as many people doing Airbnb as they used to, trying to get these properties to Airbnb it. I think that whole thing is just kind of blown up.
Yeah, they're having some serious problems right now.
And they got really, really greedy. A lot of those homeowners got really, really greedy.
Yeah,
So
they're having some serious problems. I'm in a Facebook group that is all those Airbnb people trying to sell their properties. And it's just, they're begging people to take these Airbnb properties right now because they didn't do real estate 101. When me and Troy and I met, real estate 101 was always basically, you should be able to buy the house finance, whether you put down 5 or 10%, whatever.
Mhm.
If you do a traditional real estate purchase, you should be able to at least break even when that property rents.
At the least.
That's
the reason why
barely
they're
not
not
rent.
doing it anymore. It doesn't make any sense to do that anymore.
And so these properties are not even doing that. So these people got into these Airbnb deals with finance, and it worked if you could get whatever 15 bookings a month or whatever that number was that they made. But they don't traditionally cash flow. They don't cash flow, number one. And a lot of them are not breaking even. And then when they break even, you don't break even because when the pipe bursts, when this breaks, when that breaks, that comes out of your break even money or profit. And so now you're at an upside down. So I think we're all in agreement where everything is going. I would love to put together some ideas for Raleigh and get back with you and follow up and see what you think and see if that's a region that we could expand to.
Okay, that'll work. And then also let me know what y'all schedule look like, and I will put you on with one of my friends, Andre. He's a financial advisor. So he's been showing investors, some of my investors and my developers, how they're doing reverse banking and the infinite banking, and what they're taking those funds, what they would have done into a property and getting like bonuses, like 20% on top of that. So
I would love to hear more about that. I'll be free on Monday afternoon and then all week next week, Tuesday to Friday next week for
Okay.
an hour call on something like that, because we just got approached by someone somewhere similar who wants us to kind of bring financing and paying points. We're getting a lot of this people. There's so much money out here. This guy is coming to us with backing of already $500 million that he's gotten guaranteed to him to kind of do a different financing arm so they can basically write the loans.
Okay.
And once he does that 500 million, they're already told him, like, yeah, we have another 500 million for you, we'll write for as well. So he's talking to us, obviously, from a real estate perspective. If you can bring us the loans, we'll
Yeah.
give you back end points. Or if you do a deal, like for example, if we did a deal, he'll write our deal for a lower interest rate than what we would get on the open market. So
Right.
it's just all this deal stuff. And I'm on the ground level. I'm a grunt as far as broker on the ground with the client, with the customer. So I'm not in Troy's finance, magical finance world where you guys are. So like when he's calling in this, I understand it, but I'm just like, wow, like it's just, I'm just shocked at like it's just this much money.
Well, it's a different monetizing structure and vehicle. So I get where a lot of money is available for these types of deals, without
You
question.
get where it's available. See, and that's just the part that's just shocking. He's like, no, here's a document. We ready. We're gonna have a call with him next week about that, similar to what you were saying, Jennifer. So yeah, I would love to put all of this together. But for us on the ground, I like for people like you and I in the real estate world to be able to continuously build, create our own inventory, or have our own client. We know what just happened with the real estate world, with us being able to make commissions with as a buyer's agent. That's another issue. So
Right.
definitely the world of generating our own client and generating our own inventory is kind of our way to peace, I guess you will.
And Troy, you can put us in a three-way text. That a
Okay.
chat would be good. If you
Yeah,
want to do
what's that?
Yeah, I was gonna say WhatsApp.
What time, what day and what time you thinking, Jennifer?
Next week. So let's see, because Monday is the holiday. I didn't even realize Monday was a holiday. Don't matter to
Isn't
me.
it holiday? Yeah,
That's what I found out today, like an hour ago. Like,
listen,
really?
you've been working when you don't know what holiday.
What holiday is that? Yeah.
Man. And then this woman got me so busy. We had friends in town last week, friends in town this weekend.
I know
Party
they
next
fit
week.
me and Jennifer. I was trying to get a trip. You told me, okay, I'm looking at some dates in 2025.
Oh, you trying to come visit?
Yeah.
This window. I told him last winter. I said, hey, schedule. We got the pool. We got the wineries. We are. He gonna text me in August. I said, we booked up through October. Yeah, we talking about spring 2025.
He sure was. He was serious too. Like,
Look, I ain't even seen him in forever, and I'm surprised he on camera now.
hey, I'm
So,
coming outside. I'm coming outside. I'm coming out.
I check my calendar and see about Tuesday afternoon or something like that would probably work.
Okay, let's do it then. If Troy so kindly set up the group chat, man, that'd be amazing. And we can, keep turning these wheels and hopefully make some money together.
Yeah,
So I
definitely.
think this will be good from the business. And let's talk about some stuff for Charlotte, because one of my investor partners, he actually is from the Charlotte area. They went to NC State, because I went to NC State as well. But we're doing a lot of business there, or looking to do some more business in Charlotte.
Yeah, and I'll show you in the call what we can do is I'll prep the multifamily deal and show it to you, send it to you. So then that way, maybe because we can build those, not to spec necessarily, not customized, but we can maybe adjust the numbers as far as how many units, anywhere from 8 to 12 to 16. So we could kind of discuss that and see if there's interest there, but just the cost with the interest rates, it's going to be a little difficult, but we can look at the numbers and see, because there's always still some investors that have a little bit extra money that still just want to be in the multifamily business, and they'll wait for that. They'll wait for that increase to come. So, because they may be able to leverage it a year from now with a high appraisal value, then maybe they can leverage it and do something else, pull some cash out of it, or leverage it into another one, maybe. So.
And I just got back from Los Angeles. You may or may not know. I think individually you may know, but at the top of the pandemic, I left California to go take care of my grandmother. She had a near fatal car accident, and at 90 and 7 operations later, she survived, thankfully, but she lost her ability to walk. So I actually relocated to really take care of her to a degree, not to be her caregiver, but to be there and support with a bunch of things for the family. And then I ended up moving around a few places. I went to Atlanta for a little while to do some consulting for some folks that was in my marketing group who were doing all kind of projects out there. And then I actually was dealing with some health matters, and I came to St. Louis. I was invited here really just to heal and kind of just like get still and figure out where I want to go next in my life and start looking around without the pressure of having to jump into anything. And so literally, I think last year I started coming outside. I went to go visit Cedric in Mazatlan, Sinaloa, Mexico. You know, he and Madison relocated out there 4 years ago to Mexico, and they settled in Mazatlan. But I didn't really go outside. I was just really went to Mazatlan, stayed there for 2 weeks for his 75th birthday, came to visit my mom for a little while. But this year, I just got back like 2 weeks ago from LA, and I started moving around and talking to my colleagues and friends. And they are of the same opinion that you were talking about, Jesse, years ago. And they're looking for deals outside of these big markets, and California being one of them. So there's a lot of financial and intellectual resources that I was able to touch base with, because they don't have a scope outside of some of these big cities. And they're talking to me and they're like, Troy, from their orientation of me, where's the ball bouncing? You know,
they're not even aware of like Jennifer's market. They're not aware of the Central Virginia market. They've never been to it. They're not aware that it's even that much movement in these other tertiary markets.
And I'm currently in St. Louis, and St. Louis has like the worst PR campaign. They're on the top of everything bad list. And
Yes.
a lot of socioeconomic divide, and the city definitely has issues, especially with us. But there's a whole nother world that I'm moving in these other demographics, and they're building and they're booming. And the city has good infrastructure to build upon. And I'm looking at a lot of development and construction as well. So everything that you talked about years ago, Jesse, I'm seeing come to fruition. So I'm now educating myself on this market and other markets like we talked about, because that is where the ball is bouncing, as long as the numbers can make sense. And I think we marry your world from the real estate world to the finance world, where there's bigger money and they're not used to these kind of deals, but they have a whole different appetite. That's a whole pipeline of opportunity as well.
Yeah, and I think Jennifer's got her finger on the button with that, because she's working on, these are large deals. I mean, yeah, whatever, 8 acres, 20 homes, 10 homes. I mean, these are decent sized developments with the potential to find more. This isn't the only one. So we could definitely start putting a lot of that stuff together and work on it. So it would be very exciting, but very open to it for sure.
Well, I'm going to set up a group chat for you guys. Jennifer, give me did you already give me a tentative date and time?
No. I'm gonna look in my calendar. I gotta jump on my other appointment with the seller, and then I'll text you. We'll put us in the WhatsApp, and I'll text some times.
All right.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
All right, Jesse, looking forward to it.
See you later.
Okay, bye-bye.